welcome to our deep dive into applied materials.
Oh, applied materials.
You probably use their products every day without even realizing it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're the masterminds behind the machines that build those tiny chips that power your phone, your laptop, pretty much everything digital these days.
Okay.
So today we're going to break down their latest performance based on their official press release and SEC filing.
Sounds good.
Think of the press release as the highlight reel and the SEC filing as the director's cut.
Oh.
We'll give you both versions to get the full picture.
I like it.
It's always exciting to peek behind the curtain of the tech world.
It is.
See how the magic happens.
Yeah.
Exactly. And let me tell you, Applied Materials just had a year for the record books.
Oh, wow.
They pulled in a massive $7.05 billion in revenue just in Q4. A 5% jump from last year.
Huge.
And for the full year,
yeah,
a whopping $27.18 billion.
Okay.
That's 5 years of continuous growth,
Wow.
which is pretty remarkable in any industry.
Yeah, it really speaks to the insatiable demand
Right.
for what Applied Materials provides.
Absolutely.
Every time you upgrade your phone, buy a new laptop, or even think about the future of self-driving cars, companies like Applied Materials are working tirelessly behind the scenes to make it all possible.
They're like the unsung heroes of the tech revolution,
They are.
aren't they?
Yeah, for sure.
But let's not get too dazzled by the dollar signs just yet.
Right.
To really understand what this means for you,
Yeah.
as someone keeping an eye on the tech world, we need to dive into the profit picture.
Okay.
And that's where things get a little more nuanced.
Right. You see, when companies report their earnings,
Yeah.
they often provide two sets of numbers, GAAP and non-GAAP.
Okay.
Think of it this way. Imagine you're trying to figure out how profitable your favorite local bakery is. You could look at their total sales, but that doesn't tell you the whole story.
Because they might have had some one-time expenses that year. Like maybe they had to buy a new oven or renovate their kitchen.
Exactly. Those are real costs.
Right.
But they don't necessarily reflect the bakery's day-to-day operations.
Right.
To get a clearer picture of their ongoing profitability, you'd want to adjust for those one-time costs.
Right.
That's kind of what non-GAAP earnings do for companies.
Okay.
It gives you a look at the core business performance without the distractions of those extraordinary items.
So in Applied Materials case, we see that their GAAP earnings per share, or EPS, actually dropped for both the quarter and the year.
Okay.
But their non-GAAP EPS went up.
Interesting.
Now, for anyone who just glazed over at the mention of EPS, think of it as a way to measure how much profit a company is making for each share of its stock.
It's a key metric
Yeah.
that investors use to gauge a company's financial health.
Right.
And in this case, it suggests that there were some significant one-time charges or adjustments this year that impacted the GAAP numbers, but didn't necessarily reflect the underlying health of the business.
Gotcha.
To really understand what those charges might be, we'll need to dig deeper into the financial statements a bit later.
We'll get our detective hats on for that.
Yeah.
But before we get lost in a sea of numbers, let's talk about something a little more exciting. Cash. Applied Materials generated an absolutely incredible $8.68 billion in cash from operations for the full year.
Wow.
That's enough to make even Scrooge McDuck jealous.
That's serious financial firepower.
Right.
And it means Applied Materials has a lot of flexibility to invest in future growth, buy back their own stock, pay dividends to their shareholders, or even make strategic acquisitions. It's a sign of a healthy and thriving business.
Speaking of growth, let's zoom in on the performance of Applied Materials' different business segments.
Okay.
This is where you really start to understand the breadth of what they do. They're not just a one-trick pony.
Absolutely. The biggest chunk of their revenue comes from their semiconductor systems segment. Think of this as the heart of Applied Materials.
Okay.
It's where they make the tools that create the brains of your smartphone,
Uh-huh.
the processors that power your laptop, and the memory chips that store all your data.
Right. And within this segment,
Yeah.
we see some interesting shifts happening.
Okay.
They break it down further into categories like foundry logic and DRAM.
Uh-huh.
Now, you know how your phone is getting faster and can hold more data than ever before?
Yeah.
That's partly thanks to DRAM, or dynamic random access memory.
Right.
It's the type of memory that provides quick access to information.
Uh-huh.
And it's becoming increasingly important in everything from smartphones to data centers to AI applications.
And the fascinating thing is that DRAM is rapidly gaining ground within Applied Materials' semiconductor systems segment.
Right.
The latest numbers from their SEC filings show that DRAM is catching up to the foundry logic and other category in terms of revenue.
Like DM is having a moment in the spotlight.
It is.
What do you think is driving this surge?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the rise of AI and the ever-increasing demand for data centers could be playing a major role.
Okay.
DRAM is essential for these applications because it provides the fast memory access needed for complex computations.
Right.
So as AI becomes more prevalent in our lives, the demand for DRAM is likely to continue to grow.
So Applied Materials is essentially riding the AI wave.
They are.
Providing the tools that are fueling this technological revolution.
Yeah.
That's pretty remarkable when you think about it.
It is, and it's not just about DRAM.
Right.
Applied Materials also has segments focused on applied global services, which helps customers optimize their chip manufacturing processes, and display, which makes tools for producing the screens on our phones, TVs, and other devices.
Right. So while semiconductor systems is definitely the star of the show,
those
other segments contribute to a well-rounded and diverse portfolio for Applied Materials. It's like they've got all their bases covered in the world of chip technology.
Exactly. They're strategically positioned to benefit from the growth of the semiconductor industry as a whole, no matter which direction it takes.
Now, we can't talk about these stellar results without hearing from the CEO himself.
Of course not.
Gary Dickerson, in the press release, was understandably quite pleased with Applied Materials' performance.
He highlighted their technology leadership and the unique position they're in to support the big trends we've been talking about, AI and energy-efficient computing.
He painted a pretty optimistic picture of the future, didn't he?
He did.
What are your thoughts on his statement?
Well,
do you think it's justified based on what we're seeing in the numbers?
It's always wise to take CEO statements with a grain of salt.
Right.
There's naturally a certain level of corporate optimism built in.
Right.
But from what we've seen in the data, it does seem like Applied Materials is strategically positioned to capitalize on these growth areas.
They're clearly investing in the right technologies and anticipating the needs of a rapidly evolving market. But of course, there are always potential challenges and risks that they'll need to navigate as well.
Absolutely. There are always unknowns in the world of business.
There are.
And speaking of unknowns, let's shift gears for a moment and take a peek into the future.
Okay.
Applied Materials' press release includes a business outlook for Q1 of fiscal year 2025. They're projecting revenue to be around $7.15 billion.
Hold on a second. Don't forget those magic words. Plus or minus $400 million.
Oh, right.
Business outlooks are by nature uncertain. It's more like a range of possibilities rather than a precise prediction.
Okay.
There are a lot of factors that could influence these projections.
Right. It's not a guarantee.
Right.
More like an educated guess based on current trends and market conditions.
Exactly.
They also provide a projected non-GAAP EPS of 2.29, again, with a plus or minus range.
But it's worth noting that they specifically state these projections exclude any unknowns or non-operational items.
Okay.
That always makes me a little curious.
Yeah.
What do you think those non-operational items could be?
Well, it's impossible to say for sure without more information.
Right.
But it could be a whole range of things.
Yeah.
Perhaps they're considering a strategic acquisition or divestiture.
Okay.
Or maybe there are some potential legal or regulatory issues on the horizon. It's a little bit of a mystery.
It is.
And we'll have to wait and see how it unfolds.
I love a good corporate mystery.
Me too.
Now, before we wrap up part one of our deep dive,
I
want to sprinkle in a couple of extra details from these reports that I found really interesting.
Okay.
First, the geographical breakdown of Applied Materials revenue is fascinating. China is a huge GE market for them.
It is.
In fact, it's their largest single market, accounting for a whopping 37% of their total revenue for the fiscal year.
That raises some important questions about geopolitical factors and their potential impact on Applied Materials business.
Absolutely.
How might evolving trade relationships or global tensions affect their strategy in such a crucial region?
Yeah, it's a reminder that financial performance isn't just about numbers.
It's not.
It's deeply intertwined with the complexities of the global landscape.
It is.
Right. And you know what else caught my eye?
What's that?
The sheer number of employees at Applied Materials.
Okay.
They're a major employer with over 35,000 people on their payroll.
Wow.
It makes you wonder how their workforce size and structure might relate to their future growth plans.
It does. Are they planning to expand even further, requiring even more talent to fuel their ambitions?
Absolutely. We've only just scratched the surface.
We have.
So join us in part 2 as we delve even deeper into the fascinating world of applied materials.
Okay.
And what their success reveals about the broader trends shaping our technological world.
Sounds good. I'm excited.
Me too. This is really interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Welcome back to our deep dive into applied materials.
Yeah, part 2.
Last time we explored their impressive financial performance, breaking down their record revenue, and digging into the nuances of GAAP versus non-GAAP earnings.
It was interesting.
It was.
Yeah.
And we left off with a few lingering questions.
You did.
Remember how applied materials GAAP earnings per share actually dipped?
Yeah.
While their non-GAAP EPS went up?
Uh-huh.
We're going to try and solve that little earnings puzzle today.
Okay, sounds good. I'm ready.
All right.
Put my thinking cap on.
So to do that, we need to roll up our sleeves and get a little bit technical.
Okay.
We'll be looking closely at a section in their SEC filing called the Unaudited Reconciliation of GAAP to Non-GAAP Results.
Catchy title.
It is.
Yeah.
This might sound intimidating, but it's actually a treasure trove of information if you know how to read it.
It's true.
It's like a behind-the-scenes look at how they're adjusting those stricter GAAP numbers to arrive at the non-GAAP figures.
Right.
And as we go through it, you might be surprised at what we discover.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
For instance, one of the first things that jumps out is this recurring phrase, certain items associated with acquisitions.
That piqued my interest too.
Yeah. And if you look closely, footnote number 1 actually explains that these charges are related to the amortization.
Amortization.
Yes.
Right.
Of purchased intangible assets.
So intangible assets.
Intangible assets.
Okay.
Okay, for anyone who's not an accountant, what exactly does that mean?
Well, imagine you buy a successful bakery.
Okay.
You're not just paying for the ovens and ingredients.
Right.
You're also paying for things like their brand reputation, their secret recipes, and their loyal customer base.
Okay.
These things are valuable, but they don't have a physical form.
So they're intangible like goodwill.
Exactly.
Or a strong brand image.
Precisely.
Okay.
And under GAAP rules, companies have to gradually expense that premium they paid for those intangible assets over time.
Right.
It's called amortization.
Amortization.
And it's kind of like depreciation, but for non-physical assets.
So it's a real cost, but it's spread out over several years.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And it seems like Applied Materials has been making some acquisitions, which is adding to their amortization expenses and impacting their GAAP earnings.
Yeah.
But since these expenses are related to past acquisitions, they may not reflect the ongoing day-to-day performance of the core business.
Which is why they exclude those costs when calculating non-GAAP EPS, right?
Exactly.
To give investors a clearer view of their operational profitability.
It's like this: if you're evaluating a house for sale, you might not be too concerned about a one-time expense.
Right.
The owner had to fix the roof a few years ago.
Right.
You're more interested in the ongoing costs of maintaining the house.
Yeah.
It's a similar concept here.
Okay, so acquisitions explain part of the difference between GAAP and non-GAAP earnings. But as we continue scrolling through this reconciliation table, there are a few other intriguing adjustments.
Oh, really? Like what?
We see things like acquisition integration and deal costs.
Well, merging two companies isn't a walk in the park.
Right.
There are all sorts of costs involved, like legal fees, consultant fees, and the expenses associated with smoothly blending two different workforces and cultures.
Makes sense. And then there's this item, impairment of long-lived assets.
Yeah.
Now that sounds a bit ominous, doesn't it?
It does sound a bit scary, but it's not necessarily bad news.
Okay.
It just means that Applied Materials had to reduce the value of certain assets on their books.
Right.
This could be anything from outdated equipment that's no longer as valuable to investments that haven't performed as well as expected.
So it's a reflection of changing market conditions or internal decisions about how they're managing their assets.
Exactly. And again, this is typically a non-cash charge. It doesn't necessarily mean they're losing money out of pocket right now.
Right.
But it does affect their reported earnings under GAAP.
Gotcha.
Which is why they adjust for it when calculating non-GAAP figures to provide a clearer picture of their core operating performance.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this GAAP versus non-GAAP comparison can be helpful.
Yeah.
Even if it gets a little technical. It's all about understanding the nuances and what these adjustments actually mean for the business.
Absolutely, and it highlights why it's so important to look beyond the headlines and dig into the details if you really want to understand a company's financial picture.
Speaking of fascinating details, there's one buried within these reports that I think our listeners will find particularly intriguing.
Okay, what is it?
Remember how we talked about the geographical breakdown of applied materials revenue and the significant role that China plays?
Yeah, China, that's a big one.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, there's a bigger story there.
Okay. All ears.
Yes, the China conundrum.
Conundrum it is.
It's impossible to talk about the semiconductor industry without acknowledging the immense influence of China.
It's true.
It's not just a huge market for electronics.
Yeah.
It's also rapidly becoming a major force in chip production itself.
They are really stepping up their game.
They are.
Yeah.
They're investing heavily in building up their domestic semiconductor industry. And that has major implications for companies like Applied Materials.
Absolutely.
After all, China accounted for 37% of their total revenue last year.
Wow. That's a lot.
It is.
Yeah.
That's a huge chunk of their business.
It's a double-edged sword, really.
Right.
On one hand, as China continues to invest in its semiconductor capabilities, Applied Materials is perfectly positioned to benefit.
Absolutely.
They can provide the advanced equipment and expertise that China needs to build those sophisticated chip fabrication facilities.
It's a massive potential growth opportunity for them.
It is.
But on the other hand, you have all the geopolitical complexities to consider. There are trade tensions, technology restrictions, and even the potential for conflict.
Right.
All of which could disrupt Applied Materials business in China.
Exactly. It's a high-stakes balancing act.
It is.
They need to navigate these geopolitical risks while simultaneously capitalizing on the enormous market opportunity that China represents.
It makes you realize that business decisions aren't just about spreadsheets and profit margins.
It's not just about the number.
There's a whole geopolitical chess game happening in the background.
Yeah, there's always a bigger picture.
And Applied Materials is right in the middle of it.
Right in the thick of it.
And the outcome of that game could have significant consequences.
Absolutely.
For the entire semiconductor industry.
Yeah.
And ultimately for you as a consumer of technology.
At the end of the day, it all comes back to us.
It does. The consumers. So while we can't predict the future, it's definitely something worth watching closely.
Absolutely. Keep an eye on China.
Now let's zoom out for a moment and consider what Applied Materials success tells us about the broader technological trends shaping our world.
Okay, big picture thinking time.
Big picture.
I think one of the key takeaways is that we're in the midst of a semiconductor revolution.
A revolution.
The demand for chips is only going to increase as artificial intelligence, machine learning, and other data-intensive technologies continue to advance.
It's like we're living in a world that's increasingly powered by silicon.
We are living in a silicon world.
And Applied Materials is providing the picks and shovels for this digital gold rush.
That's a perfect analogy.
It is.
And it's not just about quantity. The chips themselves are becoming incredibly complex, requiring increasingly sophisticated manufacturing techniques.
Right.
That's where Applied Materials' expertise in materials engineering really shines.
Right.
They're constantly pushing the boundaries, developing new ways to create and manipulate materials at the atomic level to meet the demands of this rapidly evolving industry.
It's mind-boggling when you think about it.
It is.
These tiny chips, smaller than your fingernail, are the foundation of so much of our modern world.
It's true.
From the smartphones in our pockets to the servers that power the internet, they're everywhere.
They are ubiquitous.
And Applied Materials is playing a crucial role in making those chips possible.
Absolutely a key player for sure.
And it's not just about consumer electronics anymore.
No.
The semiconductor revolution is impacting virtually every industry imaginable.
That's right.
From healthcare and transportation to energy and manufacturing, chips are enabling innovations that are transforming the way we live, work, and interact with the world around us.
It's like a ripple effect.
It is.
Applied Materials makes the tool, those tools make the chips.
Yeah.
And those chips make everything else possible.
It's a chain reaction of innovation that's constantly accelerating.
And that brings us to a crucial question.
And what is it?
What's next?
What's next?
What new technological marvels will these increasingly powerful chips enable?
And what challenges and opportunities will Applied Materials face as they continue to push the boundaries of what's possible?
Those are excellent questions. While we don't have a crystal ball to predict the future, We do have something even better.
What's that?
Curiosity.
Curiosity. I like it.
And a drive to keep learning and exploring these fascinating trends.
That's what it's all about.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's what this deep dive is all about. Taking a closer look, asking questions, and trying to understand the forces that are shaping our technological world.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So as we wrap up part 2 of our exploration into applied materials, we encourage you to ponder this.
Okay.
Where would you go to find out more about the companies that are actually buying all this fancy equipment from applied materials?
Yeah, good question.
What are those companies doing with these cutting-edge chips?
Right.
What innovations are they driving?
The answers are out there just waiting to be discovered.
They are.
So keep digging, keep exploring.
And keep asking questions.
We'll be back soon with the final part of our deep dive.
Okay.
Where we'll delve even deeper into the future of chip technology and what it means for you.
Sounds good. I'm excited.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Applied Materials' stellar year.
Stellar is right.
We've crunched the numbers, dissected the CEO's statement, and even pondered the geopolitical implications of their business.
We really got into it.
You're practically an applied materials expert by now.
I feel like I could teach a class.
I think you could.
Almost.
But before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I think there's one more intriguing thread to pull on.
Okay, I like it.
Remember how applied materials emphasized their focus on AI and energy-efficient computing?
Yeah, they definitely hammered those home.
Those weren't just buzzwords.
Okay.
They point to some really exciting developments in the world of chips.
Totally. But what does it actually mean for the future of the technology you use?
Exactly.
What are the specific innovations driving this push towards AI and energy efficiency? And how is applied materials positioning itself to be a leader in those areas?
Okay, so it's like we're putting on our futurist hats.
We are.
And peering into the heart of your smartphone, your laptop, even your car.
Let's do it.
One of the most exciting developments is the rise of new computing architectures.
Okay.
Traditionally, chips have been designed with a central processing unit, or CPU, as the brains of the operation.
Right. The CPU, the classic.
Right. But for AI and machine learning,
Yeah.
which involve processing massive amounts of data, a different approach is needed.
I see.
Enter the GPU, the graphics processing unit.
Oh, the GPU.
I've heard gamers talk about those.
Yeah, exactly. You might know GPUs from the world of gaming.
Right.
Where they render those complex and visually stunning graphics.
Right, all those amazing video game visuals.
Exactly. But it turns out they're also fantastic for AI and machine learning.
Really?
Yeah, why?
Why is that?
Because they're specifically designed for parallel processing.
Okay.
Instead of one powerful CPU tackling tasks one after another, GPUs can handle multiple tasks simultaneously.
So it's like having a team of processors working together.
That's a great way to put it.
Instead of just one lone wolf.
Yeah. Much more efficient for certain tasks.
No wonder they're great for AI, which often feels like it needs a whole brain trust to function.
Exactly.
But where does applied materials fit into all of this?
That's the key point. Applied Materials isn't just sitting back and watching this revolution unfold.
Okay.
They're developing specialized equipment to manufacture these powerful GPUs.
So they're on the cutting edge.
They are. They recognize the immense growth potential of this market and are positioning themselves to be the go-to supplier for the tools that make it all possible.
It's like they're anticipating the needs of the future, not just reacting to the present.
Exactly. Strategic thinking at its finest.
Now, what about the energy efficiency side of things?
Oh, yeah. Energy efficiency. Can't forget about that.
It seems like everything these days is about reducing our carbon footprint.
Absolutely. And the semiconductor industry is no exception. As chips become more powerful, they also generate more heat.
Oh, right. More power and more heat.
Which requires more energy to cool them down. It's a bit of a catch-22.
So how do you make chips that are both powerful and energy efficient?
That is the million-dollar question.
It seems like a tough challenge.
It is a tough challenge, but Applied Materials is tackling it from multiple angles.
Okay.
One approach is to develop new materials that can conduct electricity more efficiently, reducing energy loss in the form of heat.
So it's like upgrading the wiring in a house to handle more power.
That's a great analogy.
Without overloading the circuit.
Exactly, but it goes beyond just materials.
Okay.
Applied Materials is also focused on improving the manufacturing process itself.
Oh, okay.
By making the fabrication process more precise, they can reduce defects and improve the overall performance of the chips, leading to greater energy efficiency.
So it's not just about the ingredients, it's about how you bake the cake, so to speak.
Exactly.
Yeah. It all comes back to applied materials expertise in materials engineering, doesn't it?
It does. They're constantly innovating, finding new ways to create and manipulate materials at the atomic level
Wow.
to meet the evolving needs of the semiconductor industry. It's mind-blowing when you really think about it.
It is.
The level of precision involved in all of this manipulating matter at the smallest scales imaginable.
And it's those tiny innovations that ultimately lead to the big breakthroughs in technology that we all benefit from.
Exactly.
Faster phones, more powerful computers, even life-saving medical devices. It all starts with those tiny chips.
It's true, the foundation of so much.
And applied materials is right there at the foundation.
Absolutely.
They're like the architects of the digital age,
Yeah.
designing and building the very foundation
I love that analogy.
upon which our technological world is constructed.
It's perfect.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Applied Materials' impressive year,
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
I think the key takeaway for you is this. They're not just a company that makes equipment. They're a company that's shaping the future of technology in a profound way.
By investing in innovation, pushing the boundaries of material science, and anticipating the needs of a rapidly evolving technological landscape,
Right.
Applied Materials is ensuring that the chips that power our world continue to become faster, smaller, and more efficient.
And as those chips continue to evolve, so too will the possibilities for innovation in every aspect of our lives.
It's an exciting time to be alive.
It is. It's an exciting time to be witnessing this technological revolution unfold. And thanks to companies like Applied Materials, the future looks very bright indeed.
I completely agree. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time, keep diving deep into the things that spark your curiosity. You never know what amazing discoveries await you.